Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. I am Jason Bitbender Brink, and this is Derek Doc Jarvis. You know us both from the Gala Games Discord, which, if you're just joining in, you can You can join in the discussion at galagames.chat. We will be in the Founders Node area. This is going to be a straight up AMA. We will take whatever questions we can from the channel. Understand that we cannot answer everything, but we will take whatever questions we can. And we will do this for a little bit here. And we're just going to give people a few minutes to hop in the stream. In the meantime, looks like numbers are spiking on YouTube. People are apparently very interested in nodes. It's a good thing. So I'm going to drop into the Discord. How you doing today, Doc?
Doing pretty good. Yeah, I hear that we've sold a couple of nodes. Like there's a couple people running them, which is nice.
One or two, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice that we have a couple nodes out there. Okay, so let's see here. Got a bunch of different concepts. So for starters, can everyone hear us? Okay, is our audio coming through fine? There's Doc. Mystical
Which one are we
Oaks.
in? Founders or node?
We are in Founders,
Okay, cool. Founders.
and we got Pancake PhD. Everyone here is in the house. Okay, let's see. Are changes going to be retroactive? We can't make things. What do you mean retroactive? Like, we can't take away previously rewarded stuff, but we could, and by we, I mean the entire network together, could decide whether previous referrals will still count. So, in that sense, it could be retroactive, but we're not going to be actually taking away rewards that have been granted. That's not a thing. Mysterious Peanut can hear us. John T is present.
After so this question, I'm probably saying that wrong. Usually the difference between the founders node and the owners node channel is the founders node is a bit like a welcome. It's a general Q&A discussion, and the node owners is for people who already own and operate a node. And it's oftentimes a bit more of like questions about it running, any issues you might be facing, or general discussion about what owners would like to see, I think is usually how it kind of gets broken down.
Yep. Yep. I wanted to do this because the node owners channel, some of you may not be able to see that because you don't have a node. But everyone can see the founders node channel. So that's why we wanted to do this here. And if you are just joining on any of the various places this is streaming and you'd like to ask questions, join us in our Discord at galagames.chat. Okay, there will not be any leaky leaks. This is not a leaky leaks discussion, Atomic.
Yeah,
This
I already
is
had dinner anyway. I'm not in the mood for leaks.
no leaks. No leaks. Okay, so is there someone who wants to give you Gala? Probably not. That's not a thing that people like to do, and asking in channels probably not a good idea. Will referrals that have already happened still continue earning zero point 0.1 points a day regardless of the vote? Uh, no, that would depend entirely on the vote. If the network votes to kill referrals, then referrals die. I personally don't think that's a good idea. Doc maybe does. We have slightly, and by slightly I mean quite different opinions on this. But I don't like the idea of changing the referral structure in that regard. I do like the idea of making it so that you get additional points for additional hours that you contribute, but I'm personally not in favor of the other changes that are proposed. But I don't run the network, so you guys do.
And I also don't want it to die explicitly. I just yeah, I'm not that bad. I don't think it should die a fiery death. But no, I think to really close on Ed 777's question is that,
Sure.
I mean, what the vote is what the vote is. It's if it's no more of this, then it's no more of this. And also if you consider the number of nodes that have been sold right now, I mean, that would be factoring in a very, very large percentage of everything that's been done so far, which would make the vote kind of pointless if 80% did not get it applied to, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, that is fair. Well, do you want to like kind of give your opinion, Doc, on the entire
Sure,
thing?
I'll give my opinion. Yeah, how much time do I have? I've only got an hour. Okay, I'm gonna have to
We've got
summarize.
an hour,
Uh,
but it's okay. We can if necessary,
yeah,
we can push it.
yeah, no. So, I mean, I'll approach it from two angles. One is from the technical angle, where the original reason for us doing that pre-proposal that you guys may have seen a long time ago that we put out, it was because we realized that where we're going in the future, we need to be ready for. And as great as the support is, we need to make sure that the support is really going to be there when the network needs the resources. And so making sure that the nodes stay up for a longer period of time, making sure that they're prepared to do more work, making sure that there's IPs available, because some of the protocols we're using require open ports on IPs to work properly. And as with many things in the decentralized or blockchain space, it kind of has to come with an incentive. Unfortunately, not many people are just throwing free hardware out there, especially when they can be, crushing hashes on some other network, right? So there has to be an incentive to do more work than the current 6 hours. So that was the reason for the change. Incentivizing the things we need. We need good hardware. We need the hardware to be up a lot. We probably need some benefit for having IPs. Uh, and then to the referral part of it, that kind of actually became an issue. There's something that wasn't directly touched on in that pre-proposal. All we talked about was scaling up the points. And one of the huge things that came back from the community was, what about referrals? And that's why this second blog post came, where we had a lot of internal discussions about maybe this, maybe that, and multiple weeks probably if we would raise it up and then not get anywhere, and then raise it up and not get anywhere. And so if it seems like it's been a while, it's because we have been discussing it a lot. And what we came down to was the best way to attack this is refine it into the specific points that really guide this decision. And then let the community take those points and use that to shape what they want to see the referral system look like. Um, from my perspective of how I feel about referrals is I think that there's great parallels in the world about how referrals work really well. You invite someone to your company, a good friend, a very valued coworker. You might get a sign-on bonus after they've been there for a while. That's very much like our one-time payment bonus, or whatever you want to call it, a one-time bonus, and it works really well. And I think that's a very valid thing. When you do hire your friend, you don't get a portion of his paycheck for every week after that, and you don't get a portion of anyone else's paycheck in the company after that. I kind of don't like the recurring bonus, but I do like the one-time referral bonus. I do want to incentivize people to share the network with their friends, to support the content creators out there, and give them a reward for supporting us in such a great way. So I don't want it dead. I just want it changed a bit.
Yeah, that's a very very decent reasoned perspective. And like you said, when we first put the whole initial pre-proposal out, there was a lot of very interesting pushback from the community, specifically on that, or surrounding the referrals, and that is what has prompted this discussion. Now, you and I have gone back and forth on this a lot, and originally, for me, I was looking at it from this perspective of, okay, well, yeah, there's a lot of these referral points out there, and especially when there's a day where lots and lots and lots of nodes sell, you have this, flood a week later of, these high numbers of points that are going, and it knocks down the distribution for everybody, and everyone gets always very upset about that. But and that was honestly when it first started, because if you go back in the early, like, ancient history of Gala, when people would refer a node, there was actually 1,000 points that the referrer would get when somebody purchases a node, which was obviously ridiculous. And if you look at that graph of the referrals over the entire history of the network, you see it's super, super insanely crazy noisy at the beginning, and that was because of those 1,000 points, which was insane. However, now that things have kind of leveled out, the number of nodes online versus the amount that is being, distributed as a referral reward, it's become a much smaller percentage. And in my personal opinion, the amount that a person would gain from having, from removing the referral structure, whether it's the initial points or the long-term recurring points, is relatively small compared to the growth that the people who are out getting these referrals, bring to the network. I don't have the exact number, but something like almost 50% of the people who have come to the network have come because of a referral from somebody else. And yes, there are definitely issues where there are people who have self-referred. 100% is a problem, but it's not something that we can really do anything about, unfortunately. But I think that what you gain by removing this versus what you lose by, essentially creating a situation where the network has defunded content creators, I think that's very, very much, it's a much bigger loss in my perspective. So yeah, that's where I come from with this. The referrals.
Can I answer a question?
Yeah, of course.
And at the same, and yeah. Sorry, did you have more to say on that?
Oh, I was just going to add. I mean, I just was looking over at you, I have you on this screen over here, so it looks like I'm actually talking at you. And then I went to look back at Discord. I was going to start answering some of these questions. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll just jump in and be very rude. But extend an olive branch and also answer John T's question. John T's question was about what if the distro changes, right? What I would say is the distribution is almost guaranteed to change in the future, right? In the original pre-proposal that we showed, there's a phase 2, which is what we're talking about now, and there's a phase 3. And right now, things are still coming online. And we all know that Gala has a very specific distribution mechanic, right? How much gets distributed every day up to 50 billion. That runs out eventually. And the plan has always been that as the distribution runs out from the total 50 billion getting minted, the rewards would start to come to nodes from other sources. For example, doing heavier work, potentially, maybe some sort of fee system involved that is used. These things haven't been established yet, but that's the idea, is that what we're talking now is just phase 2. And what's coming will probably get a vote again, because it's something that needs to be discussed and agreed and get some consensus on it. And this whole thing, in a nutshell, kind of explains why to some people this whole argument doesn't matter, because the distribution will run out eventually. And the referral bonus is just for this current distribution, which has already been halved a couple of times since the referrals originally started. So to some, it's kind of an invaluable, or not a very valuable argument, because it's going to run out eventually. So why bother? Why bother changing it, rather?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this particular the referral structure only applies to Gala. It doesn't apply to NFTs. Doesn't apply to anything there. And so, yeah, you are right. In the long run, what people will be receiving for operating the nodes is definitely going to change. Yeah, so this is, I mean, obviously we can definitely see some questions coming through here, and definitely there's some very interesting perspectives. Will the nodes be able to run on other Linux distributions? What say you to that, Doc?
You can run it on any Linux distro you want that runs x86, if you're willing to do the installation and configuration.
Garrison, to answer your question, why does the referral point bonus come out of the node owner's 50% of the pool and not Gala Games? There's some interesting points here, but the critical thing here is that if we as an entity pay referrals, Okay, we pay content creators. There is an argument that we are potentially responsible for what those content creators say. Okay, now from a perspective of wanting to protect the entire organization, we obviously don't want that, because if somebody goes out and says a bunch of crazy stuff and says, oh well, Gala paid me to say that, obviously that's not in anyone's best interest. That hurts everybody here. So if it's a network thing and they're effectively using the network, then that's one thing. But if it's us saying, okay, yeah, here's some money, go say some stuff, then we are responsible for vetting everything that they say. And to be honest, the number of videos that are created out there, it's impossible for us to monitor that. And if the referral structure goes away, then I believe a lot of that goes away too, which is probably not something that anyone wants.
Can I throw one in that
Yeah,
was
please,
asked
of
earlier
course.
that I saw scrolled by? Was Bendigo asked if the subsequent 6 hours thing being discussed in the current proposal
Hmm.
is the same as the original, and it basically is. It's
It's
kind of
similar,
phrasing
yeah.
it hopefully in a more clear way.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. We just wanted to make it a little bit more digestible. The previous proposal, if I remember correctly, was a little bit more granular, but I think a little bit harder for people to kind of wrap their head around. This way, you run for 6 hours, great, you've met your daily requirement once. You run for another 6 hours, great, you met your daily requirement twice, and you're incentivized to basically keep everything up and stable.
And I think the question's been asked, and we should look at it, is if you do the 6 hours thing, are we going to give any leeway for not meeting exactly 24 hours? Or is there going to be like 6 hour increments, 5 hour and 55-minute increments? Or how do we want to handle that if it's not literally 100%? Do they lose that chunk?
I personally am in favor of there being a little bit of leeway. I definitely want to make sure that we have better than 99% uptime. But if there's a minute or two that goes down, then I don't like the idea that you would be excluded from that. From a tech implementation perspective, that's another question, but that's kind of the way that I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I don't know, do you think that that'll be one that we want to put out there about how much people think, or is that something we're going to have to decide what we think is
I
going to really
I
support the
think
network?
it needs to that needs to be a decision of what will really support the network. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, we can, we could put it out there and say, which do you like more, 99.9, 99.8, or
Yeah.
99.7. But ultimately I think we need uptime. Like, we absolutely need uptime.
Yep.
Expected
Yeah. And
rollout for
we
phase.
can't let,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
go, no, go ahead.
I was just answering questions. Expected rollout of phase two. So essentially, let me give you a timeline of how this is going to happen, or this governance vote. So essentially, there's four questions which were addressed, or which were laid out in our previous blog post on this topic, which is linked in the one that we just posted today. And those four questions will be asked in node votes over the next few days. I don't know if we're going to be doing any additional ones over the weekend, or if we'll let the one that we start today run until Monday. It sort of depends on, a few different things. But essentially, we're going to put that out as a vote and allow people to, make their choices. And then as soon as that one's done, we'll record that, and then we'll move on to the next one. Once that's done, we will know the shape of what the entire system is going to look like in terms of referrals. At that point in time, that gets locked in. This is what we're doing. And then with Galaverse, and with the holidays, and with the end of the year, and all of these things, we're going to push out the actual deployment of the next phase to sometime in January. And so that's when everything would kick into effect. Does that match your understanding, Doc?
Yeah. And I would say from a tech perspective, we'll probably be dropping the next beta
Yeah.
in the next week or so that can support a lot of this new stuff. So the new check-in functionalities, the new IPFS versions, we've done some tweaking on it. We've received feedback from the community about quality of life improvements. So actually, the beta version will be available before it's required for the phase 2 vote and whatever the distribution and referral bonuses look like at that point.
Right.
I've got a couple answers.
Hit
It's
it,
going to
man.
touch on a
Just
couple of questions.
throw
One
it
of them
in
that
there.
Dig Dug asked about how hard will the Linux admin become, essentially? And this is kind of in contrast to another question that was asked previously of like, why can't I run it as a container? And you kind of have two opposite ends of the spectrum here, right? You have someone who wants to just click install and know that it's okay, and you have someone who wants to run their own infrastructure. Unfortunately, in some bad cases, sometimes people want to run it in a container to provide as few resources as possible, which is not so great for our network.
Bad.
By the
Don't
way,
do that.
yeah. So that's part of the reason we have this phase 2 vote, people, is because we can see how many nodes are seriously underpowered, and that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So how hard will it become? We want to do what we can to make it easy, right? And in my opinion, as a person who doesn't do sysadmin every day, is if you're nervous about it, the best thing to do is to put it on a machine that you don't have your sensitive information on, right? And dedicate a machine to that, a separate network, something like that, if you're really concerned about it, because then you don't have to worry so much about, did I get my firewall configuration correct? Did I put in the right exceptions on the virus scanner? We've seen sometimes in the community people commenting virus scanner conflicts, and that's a thing. If you're a gamer, you'll probably also see that virus scanners pop up when you try to host a game because they get false positives. They don't understand that you're just trying to play a game and you're not running a botnet, right? And that's always some due diligence that has to be done for the operator. The containers, it uses what resources you give it, exactly, and that's why I said it's not a bad thing. And there are some people who have some very robust Docker Swarm, Kubernetes configurations for lots of containers. And there's people who use that GitHub script to run it on a $5 VPS, a bunch of nodes, and really cheat the system. So I wouldn't say that it's a bad thing. And I don't think I said that earlier. I said that there's good uses and there's bad uses.
Right.
Now, the next thing I would say about it is where we want to go for version 3 of the node, or phase 3, is we want the nodes to do more things, different things. And so actually the containers will start using or containers themselves. So running a node is in a way running your own container orchestration, or the node software will be a container orchestrator to run these different workloads. I guess you could probably pick them apart, maybe. I don't know if we'll try to block that. But yeah, the workloads are going to get containerized anyway. The different types of work that the nodes will do are going to be running in containers to try to make it easier for the people to admin it, so that someone like Dig Dug doesn't need to go and read up a Docker manual to figure out how to operate his node, but that technology is running under the hood.
Right. And yeah, so in the long term, as we have specifically some of these other game specific workloads and things like that that come online with the different requirements, all of that will get built into the ability to even run the workload. One of the things that I mentioned here, and if you guys aren't in the Discord right now, get in the Discord, galagames.chat. We're in the founders node section, having this discussion. $5 VPSs, the toaster nodes that are out there don't support the network. And this is one of those situations where I wish I can say more than the things that I can say. But there's some pretty freaking epic stuff that is coming down the pipeline for the node ecosystem in general. And that node ecosystem needs to be able to support the epic levels of amazingness that are getting ready to freight train into all of your lives. So yeah, that's that. Reassured, when level 2 node, that's what the votes are on right now, and then we will be having something released mid to late January probably. Will these votes affect game tokens? So in the way that points are distributed, it will impact that part of it. Basically, more uptime, more stability equals more for you, but it is not going to impact. So it would impact the distribution, not the total quantity, basically, if that makes sense. So if you have everyone who's running, if you took every single node that's up right now and just made it more awesome and had it run 24 hours a day, nothing would change as far as that goes for game coins. But what is likely going to happen is you'll have some people that run nodes 24/7, and then you'll have some people that run it for 6 hours while they're sitting at their desk. And obviously the distributions would change there, or could potentially change there depending on the vote tonight. But that's how that would work. Epic level confirmed. Yeah, it's going to be pretty amazing, guys. Like, yeah, it's going to be a lot. How about a tool that we could run that shows how robust our node is or where it is lacking? I love that idea. We should do something like that at some point. When will Gala be listed on Voyager digital currency platform? I have no idea what that is. I'm sorry. So go ask Voyager. Maybe they'll tell you. Soccer game.
And the minimum specs for the next phase are in the blog posts.
Yeah.
That was asked by Vera Awesome, who it seems that we'll be seeing at Galaverse.
Doc, soccer game, question mark. That's all I have to say. I just want to know.
Soccer game, question mark? What is that?
I don't know. It just says soccer game. I don't know what the question is, but soccer game. That is my new question for the day.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's calling it soccer, so I can get on board with that. I'm not a big fan of this European football.
Yeah.
I'm just, seeing if I can start a war here in the Discord with my Americanisms.
Thank you, Anil, for answering questions that other people are asking. I appreciate that. It is very difficult to keep up with the flow of chat sometimes. Oh God, here it's going faster. Oh dear, look what you've done. Look what you've done, Doc.
If you want to watch a soccer game, here's any soccer game. Goal!
followed by falling down.
Yeah. So this comment has come up, and I'll kind of touch on it. Is how decentralized is Gala Games if most nodes are running on only a few different VPS centers? That's quite an assumption, which is not true. I can tell you that they are not all running in a couple of VPS centers. And it wouldn't be very decentralized either if none of them were running in a VPS data center, right? So it's actually good to have a mix of some running in a VPS, some running at home. I mean, I think some people possibly run them as a business as well. People can do it how they choose. And at the end of the day, we want the network to work. So we want the nodes to be running. We want them to be doing their job. And when phase 3 comes and nodes are rated more on how much work they get done as opposed to how long were they online, that will become very apparent. Whose node is sitting in a cheap data center at the bottom of the earth or something and is getting no work done because the network ping times are too long. So
yeah,
that doesn't answer that, but that gives some thoughts on it.
Is this a blockchain? I think we're providing general compute, so Kelly distribution, RAM, memory, etc. So basically, some of the workloads for game specific requirements will require some proof of work, potentially. What we want to avoid, we're not opposed to the concept of computation. Computation is required. It is what computers do. But what we're opposed to is the proof of waste sort of bullshit, arbitrary, do big math to prove you get coins. Okay, what we would like, for example, if let's say you have a game, and let's say it is a MMO RPG in which pieces of the world are being procedurally generated. Now, typically, that procedural generation would happen either on your machine or on a server, right? Well, what if we set something like this up so that procedural generation happens on a node? Okay, now that would obviously require some work. It's not like, again, arbitrary bullshit math to prove that you get coins, but it would actually be work. And something like that would be a very cool implementation of a workload. Can we run
Yeah,
game
and
nodes? Oh, sorry. Continue,
go
Doc.
ahead. Go ahead and answer that one first.
I would say yes. It will require scaling of resources, obviously, but you know, yeah,
Yeah, the thing I was going to say is you touched on it about having a node do some procedural generation of a world. And when we get to nodes able to run work in containers, it can be as creative as we want. You know, it can
right.
be creating worlds, it can be doing basically offline batch processing of transactions, and maybe that's some sort of validation workload of games and rounds. There's there's a lot of things that we can do. And I think not all of them will be based on your network speed. Some of them will be based on your network speed. Not all of them will be based on your CPU. Some of them will be based more on storage, right? So when people ask like, will these specs be good for the next year or 3 years or 5 years? I always think of The Simpsons, where Homer is getting conned by a computer salesman, and he asks, can you guarantee me that this will be the best computer forever? And the guy says, yeah, of course, but you've got to buy it in the next 30 seconds. So I would say buy what you're comfortable with as a common user, and be prepared for changes. Don't go spend $10,000 on a machine right now unless you want to use it as an excuse. I mean, if you want to use it as an excuse, I'm not going to stop you, but it's not
It's
required.
not required, yeah. So just to answer Moldy's question, Moldy says you don't seem to be looking at questions on YouTube. Can you explain what I've heard about a town node? Thank you. So no, we're right now not looking at YouTube, and I apologize to everybody who is commenting on YouTube and Twitch and everywhere else. Join our Discord at galagames.chat. That's where this conversation is happening, just because it's impossible for everyone to keep track of everything. We're streaming in like 8 different places, so yeah, join the Discord, and we'd be happy to answer questions. Um, okay, and then where did that other question go? Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about. Town star nodes. That is a thing that might be a thing. I can't give you any more information about that right now, unfortunately. So yeah, just watch. There will be things that are revealed there. Um, so do you wanna take the how will game specific nodes work, Doc? Do you wanna do that?
Sure. Uh, I assume this is more from a technical perspective because the work that they'll be doing for the game really depends on the game, and we have new games coming to
Correct.
the network very frequently. So each time we have a game that we're looking at, that we're either considering to bring to the platform and a node vote, or that's already been voted in, we look for ways to decentralize that on our nodes. Some games lend themselves to that more than others. The one that we have an easy win on is that we can do DCDN, or distributed content delivery network hosting, on our nodes already. We use IPFS for that. And for the game specific ones, they will get to be containers that will do work inside of your node. So you install the node, and you can do multiple things at once in one node, one piece of software, one machine, as long as it has the specs. So each thing your node is doing would have some spec requirements, and as long as you can meet all of those on one node, it's fine to run those all on one node. But if your node starts falling over and you start getting 50% uptime, that's really going to hurt your rewards. So you would either need to consider to scale up your node, or to split your node into two, have one running the founder work and have one running game work. We are trying to build it to be one click and go for a machine that's sized well enough, but we can't really build it for every single person's exact use case.
Very fair. Uh, I cannot comment on the prices of Miranda's Vox boxes or Vox. I have no idea. Not my department, unfortunately. Shouldn't everybody be on IPFS for their node? Yes, they should. They absolutely should. That is a thing that we want to happen. And let's see, what other questions do people have?
So they're asking about the location, and
Yeah,
I probably
sure.
get DM'd about this or tagged about it once a week. And in phase two, uh, I don't think it will matter, um, because we have a lot of nodes running right now, and it's going pretty well. They're pretty well distributed across the world. I would say it won't matter until it matters. If we start pushing out so much content and we're finding that it's not able to be retrieved in certain parts of the world because there's just no coverage there or there's no nodes anywhere nearby, then we might start to look at, do we need to do a vote to see how we fix this, and put forth a couple of options about how we can incentivize people to make sure we have coverage in these areas. But I don't really see that being a problem until phase three, until we're actually judging rewards based on the quality and the work getting done. I think we'll have enough coverage to cover it for phase two.
Excellent. So, Mixplick asks, is there any chance that the one-time referral bonus does not get the option to be 0 during the voting? That option could completely wipe out referrals and seems way too harsh and is not the best interest of anyone. Again, just my opinion. Now, I personally agree. I absolutely personally agree. But my responsibility here is that whether or not I agree, I still have to put it to the network unless it makes the network fundamentally technically unsound. Like, so for example, if there were somebody wanted to run a proposal that would say everybody just gets stuff for owning a node license, then yeah, no, that's not going to happen because that literally breaks the network. But in this case, you know, the network itself would still function. We're at a point where there's a critical mass that has been reached where the network would function without that one-time bonus. So I think that we need to give people the ability to choose that, regardless of whether or not I like it. I personally like for the record, my personal feeling is that we leave it as is right now, but make it so that you get more credit for more uptime. I don't feel that there is anything to be gained by changing that in any way, shape, or form other than that. But people want it, so that's where the vote is coming. In the long term, we would like to have the ability for people to put stuff into sort of like a governance type vote to be something that's completely decentralized, but we're unfortunately not there yet. But in the future, that's something that will happen.
I'm going to answer a question from,
Go for it.
I'm assuming this is Oz Babali, maybe Australia. I don't know.
I
OVH
believe he's
issues.
Turkish. I think I've talked to him before.
Oh, well,
I think he's a Turkish
well,
guy,
I
if I remember
apologize for
correctly.
butchering it. So the question about OVH issues, and essentially a couple of data center providers have detected or considered our beta node as an attack on the network because it tries to scan looking for IPFS clients. Uh, the short-term fix for that is to basically enable a firewall on your machine to make sure that it is not trying to scan local networks. That's what the data center is picking up as an attack. And in the new release that we're going to do hopefully next week, we are putting some changes into the configuration that will by default block the local IPFS agent from trying to scan on those common IP addresses or IP address ranges to help fix that issue.
Yeah, and you know, I do agree just in general with Duke Broski and some of the things that he's saying about on-chain. I think that content creators bring a ton to the network. I think that they absolutely do. Now, I'm not going to get into discussions about pricing, speculation. That's not a thing that I want to have here. But I know that there are certain people, for example, that exist in the network that have brought literally hundreds of thousands of people into create accounts. And I think that if we were to like take the top 15 or 20 referrers we're looking at a significant chunk of the ecosystem. And I think that if the referral structure did not exist, that would not have happened in that way. So with that said, I recognize the fact that this has to go to a vote, but I'm personally with him on this one. And please forgive the garbage truck driving by outside. Ed, I'm not. It's the entire network that has the ability to make this vote. I believe that content creators are absolutely essential personally.
And as I commented before too, I also don't think that the benefit should be taken away completely. It's just a question of how should it be structured, even
And
for my slightly more critical view.
yeah, and I honestly don't think that the network is going to vote to completely nuke the entire structure. I could be wrong. I hope I'm not, but um, I do love my content creators, Old Man Smithers. You're a content creator. Your website is fantastic. You put work into that, and if you refer people for that, I believe that you deserve to be rewarded for that. And I don't have a problem with that being a small trickle over time. I actually personally dislike the single time higher point thing because that's where people, have these really big fluctuations. I dislike that. In fact, if you look at that graph, you can see even in the last 6 months, when there's been a big run up, there's those days where things get kind of knocked down. I would prefer that we keep it that small percentage over time. I think it makes sense personally.
So I'll touch on Ed's question about why did it
Sure.
include the zero option. There's two reasons, quite honestly. One is that as we were talking about the uptime earlier, yeah, we could do a vote where you say you get to pick 2 or 2.1 or 2.11, right? And that's not really a vote. And there are strong opinions on all aspects of it, right? Now, the purpose of the vote is to see what is the quantity versus the volume of that opinion, right? Just because there's 5 people in Discord screaming one thing, it doesn't mean that that's the majority of the vote, but it does mean that it should be represented. And
Yeah.
the other reason is that because there's strong opinions about should it be a one time, should it be a recurring, and you need the options on both sides because a person who feels that maybe you should get a 15% referral bonus, but a 0.1 time, right? That's a valid opinion and a valid thought of what they would like you to get.
Right.
Others might see a larger one time and a smaller or no perpetual. And that's why the options are there on the whole range.
Yeah, and just again to answer Deb's statement here, um, if the network is rewarding content creators, that is the network doing it. If we as an entity reward content creators, then we have to police it. So we would have to, for example, when we run advertising, okay, that is our responsibility to make sure we're running advertising that is compliant. Um, that is compliant. If it was, us paying content creators, then we have to police those content creators and make sure that everything that they say is compliant because functionally it would be advertising funded by us as an entity. So that's why we literally cannot do that.
Yeah, I'll touch on a couple there too about
Yeah,
the
please.
API keys. I also would like to see API keys come as a way to sign into some things. Uh, I don't have anything that I can show right now, but there are plans, and this also touches on the question earlier about a mobile app for a web-based a web page that you can see the status of multiple nodes, and that would potentially be driven, would definitely be driven by API endpoints, and we would look into adding API key access to those endpoints so that you could access them and consume them in whatever way you want. And as a short-term thing that we're doing for the headless node that's getting an update, once we do this new beta release, it has a command line parameter for stats that'll spit it out as JSON. So if you wanted to, you could set a cron job that's going to query your node with JSON, uh, not JSON Brink, and
I'm working on my
you could
eyebrow.
parse that how you want to, and that's and that's as good as we can get it for now. But I think there will be more to come. And the question of does the Linux headless node update itself, or do we need to reinstall it? You'll need to reinstall this new version that's coming out. If you and in the new version, I believe there's going to be a function to do that from the command line, that update, instead of needing to fully download everything and run the install script again. But whichever way is easier for you.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's see here. Somebody asked me to answer. Ah. Um. So basically, Dark Magician asks, will Gala Games allow node owners to sell their licenses if when all 50,000 nodes have been sold? This is something we've answered a couple times. It very much depends on some regulatory issues that are still very much being looked at. I personally would like that. I don't know if it is possible. If it is possible, there will likely be some sort of KYC component to it, just to maintain compliance, but I don't even know if it's possible at this point. JSON born. I love it. I love it. Okay. Um, if asking a vote, can there be a link to resources to learn more in the node vote area? Isn't there already a link? I thought there was already a link when a vote goes live. I think there
I think it
is.
just depends. We have to put it in the description. So there's been a couple times where we link it to a blog post,
Right.
and other times it's just been text. So yeah, we do try to put extra information with it when we have it.
Yeah. And so, in terms of advertising, yeah, the type of advertising that you typically see us do is things like homepage takeovers. Okay. Here's an amazing picture of an awesome game that you can play. It's going to be great. Check it out. That's how a lot of people have learned about us. And Oaks had a really good comment. She says, if we pay content creators, they're not content creators, they're advertisers. And we don't want that. We don't want to dictate what content creators say. We want somebody to be able to say, hey, I have this node thing. I don't like Gala games. They're, stupid, whatever, but here's this node thing and check it out. That's what a content creator does. An advertiser does not do that. We want people to be able to say what they want. Can there be a feature that you get a text message to your phone when a new vote has been opened up? Probably not. That does not seem to be a good use of SMS bandwidth or developmental resources to make that happen. Just hang out in the Discord. I promise you, people will let you know.
Yeah, I also get kind of nervous about that, thinking about that getting used as a scam, right? Getting some
Oh God, yeah.
SMS on your phone, like, hey, go do this vote for 10x more Gala. Oh yeah, sure. Let me just sign in and do that vote right now. Not that everyone would fall for that, but I just
But
get so
some
nervous
people
about any
would. Oh
other.
my God, people and falling for scams. Holy crap! Like, yeah, it always hurts me to see people fall for scams, whether it's on OpenSea
Yeah,
or Telegram. This is why we don't operate in English language Telegram, because it's the worst. Like, it's
it's
absolutely
terrible.
like terrible and toxic. The number of fake bitbenders out there is ridiculous, and they don't do anything about it either. They'll just be like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Is there any there's a bunch of web app questions, or app questions rather. My guess is that there will probably not be an app, but there could potentially be some sort of web app.
Yeah, if you look at like an example is the Townstar game as it sits right now, some people think it's an app, but it's actually what's called a progressive web app, or a PWA. It's
Right.
literally a website that is just installing a link on your desktop and launching it in a nice, clean way. We could potentially do that, but it's still going to be pointing back to that website. So it's going to be a mobile friendly and, desktop, laptop friendly website that you could do this type of thing. I think voting is on the table to do that through the website, unless Law Tank, shoots us with his cannon. We'd have to see.
That happens. We get law tanked from time to time. Okay, guys. Any other questions? We got a few more minutes here, and then we'll probably wrap it up because I know that we both have meetings to jump into. Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. Smaller channels, like for example, how many people playing Townstar use Townstar Guide? Townstar Guide is entirely supported by, referrals, and so stuff like that could quite likely go away. And Townstar Guide supports El Nido Cat Sanctuary, and you don't want to vote against kittens. Come on.
One thing I've seen this come up a couple times, so I'm not creating this new idea. It has been commented. The idea of holders, like people who have the token from December or January. So the people who are really doing that wave of referrals were getting points and referrals at a time where there was massively larger amounts of Gala going to every
Yeah.
single point, for less because that's what the price was at the time, right? You see some people who basically have like been changing what they bought. They bought a homestead, and they were able to turn that into something else and turn that into something else. So I personally think that there is room for people who do get these bonuses, even one-time bonuses, by just holding it and doing things with it to get more benefit out of it than just that one-time thing. It's just like a lot of the node owners; they have to choose how to use their rewards that are getting distributed to them.
Right. So, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll stop taking questions for now because I want to stand here and kind of get on my soapbox for just a second. I encourage everybody to share their viewpoint on this topic. I think that it is good for people to be able to have dialogue, to be able to share what they think is the correct response. However, not however, it's not a but, it's definitely an and. And I want everyone to remember that everybody in this is doing what they think is best in some way, shape, or form. So I really want everybody, I know this is a contentious topic, but I want everyone to pull together as a community, be respectful of one another, be respectful of one another's opinions. I see people when this specific conversation comes up, people get very, very, very salty, and there can be some conversations that happen that aren't super nice. That is not in anyone's best interest, and it's not going to convince anyone. So share your viewpoint, share your opinions, talk to people, but be nice and remember that we're all one big family here. Okay, in this community, we are all a family. We're all working together, and pretty soon, a lot of us are going to be hanging out together at Galaverse, and the little tiny plug, you should come to Galaverse. If you can get there, you should get a ticket and you should come because those tickets are not going to be around forever. I'm not going to hint any more strongly than that, but I would love to hang out with you all. And I want to make sure that when we're all hanging out, there's not this oh my God, you advocated this way and you advocated this way. We do not need a Gala family civil war here. Okay, guys? We're all working to support the network. We're all working to support the ecosystem. We're all working to liberate and free gamers and game developers around the world from the clutches of the people who do not want players to have ownership of their in-game assets. And so, yeah, that is what I would like to say there.
I want to chime in too and
Sure,
say,
please.
be polite in the Discord. That's the number one thing.
Yes,
You can
be
have
polite.
different opinions.
Be nice. Don't be evil.
And yeah.
Can we get a new bot for Discord that's called Salty Bot? I would not be opposed to that. I think that might.
I think it would kick me out a lot. I'm salty, but I'm polite when I'm salty.
Yes.
So that's okay.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for all of your support in this. Thank you for participating in the AMA. Thank you in advance for being pleasant and polite and nice to one another as we have this somewhat contentious series of votes coming up. And thank you to our content creators who have created amazing stuff in the past. And thank you to the community for being here because of those content creators. So yeah, that's it, guys. Um, Again, thank you all, and we will catch up with you very soon. So, peace out. Bitbender out, guys.